Now, the anti-discrimination portion of USERRA, as we saw under Section 4311, is pretty straightforward. You essentially can't make an employment decision based on somebody's status of being in the Guard or Reserve. The reemployment rights under Section 4312 are much more complicated. There's 5 key factors to understand about reemployment following military service under USERRA, and we'll review those. The Guard or Reserve member has to have left civilian employment. And as we stated earlier, that civilian employer can be just about anybody. Second, the service member has to give appropriate notice to that employer. Third, the service member can be absent from the workplace no greater than 5 years of cumulative time. Fourth, the service member has to have been released from military service under general or honorable conditions. And fifth, the employee has to return to the employer in a timely manner. So we talked earlier about the first one, that the employee has to leave their employer. That's tied up with the second one, that the employee has to give appropriate notice. Now, on September 12th, 2001, a lot of people were notified, show up, report for duty. So what was appropriate under those circumstances? Well, USERRA doesn't give us a lot of guidance here other than they tell us whatever is practicable, which means whatever is reasonable. And practicable, that's a good lawyer word. But it means whatever is reasonable under the situation. On September 12th, when maybe you had 24 hours notice, it was a phone call to your employer. It's a little different now. The military has caught up with, they've established timetables. They're no longer operating reflexively as they did following September 11th. They're planning. Employees will generally have an idea of when they're going to get activated. Their unit will often know 6 months to a year ahead. They want the service member to be able to plan. The unit itself needs to be able to plan, and the Department of Defense wants the employers to have as much advance notice as they can. And this is to service members who are watching this as well as their employers. There's nothing wrong with giving advance notice. It's very common for Air Guard and Reserve units to print drill schedules on refrigerator magnets. Well, grab one, take it to work, give it to HR if you're an employee. An employer, there's nothing wrong with asking for a drill schedule, deployment schedule if the employee knows. One of the things that the Department of Defense tries to drill into the head of service members is that you should keep the lines of communications open with your employer. And service members watching and employers watching, have that dialogue. It's important. It can alleviate most, if not all, of the headaches that can happen when somebody deploys. And just as the Department of Defense tries to stress that, it's called interactive process, the relationship, they also don't tell us what is exactly appropriate notice. They do advise service members to put it in writing. So if you're a service member watching, put it in writing if you can. You're probably not going to get activated on 24 hours notice. So put it in writing. Let the employer know how long you anticipate going, where you're going to deploy, when you anticipate coming back, and that you are going to return to the job when you come back. That will be very helpful for the employer in planning, for you in protecting your rights, and it just makes the relationship that much easier.